Greetings to all. This is Albie back. It's been a while. I'd like to welcome you all back. Sorry it's been a while for me. Hello to everybody at Southern California UFO Paranormal Society. Greetings to everybody. It's Victorville Paranormal Group. Tonight's video is going to be about the moon and the effects on the moon on human behavior.
Hey everyone, it's Sarah with RegisteredNurseRN.com, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the full moon phenomenon in the healthcare setting. If you have ever spoke with a nurse or a doctor who works in like a hospital, the vast majority of them will tell you that they absolutely hate working during a full moon. And the reason why is because patients and coworkers tend to act a little bit more crazy than normal. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about what the research studies show about
All right, so what I have here tonight for you people is, I'm always kind of serious but funny. So this is the moon chart. We're going to call this the 7 days of the moon and how it interacts with you and your emotional state. So here is the full moon, right? And it's on day 5. And I go backwards. So let's say if this is a 7-day, we'll say this is the first day of the moon cycle attacking us, right? And what I'm going to go into here is, here's our normal week, how we normally, the other 3 weeks of the month, how we go through our month. We go through this, we're going this way. So we go through this wave, a normal week, up and down, up and down, up and down through the week. But during the full moon week, this is different. It's going to be, here's our mental state, and here's our physical state. So we have 2 charts here. So you can see here, this is our physical state. It goes up, and it peaks the day before the full moon, and then drops down rapidly. Same thing with the mental. Our mental state increases and then drops down rapidly right after the full moon. So here's the full moon. You can see it's a complete moon here. And here are the days before the full moon. So this is 4 days before the full moon. We call this day the start of that 7-day period. Jesus on the bullhorn. Jesus on the bullhorn. What does that mean? Jesus on the bullhorn is you're going to catch on the 5th day before the full moon, you're going to see people on the corner with a bullhorn telling you about Jesus, and they're going to be out there, screaming and yelling about Jesus and the rapture and end of the world, and you're going to see them, 2 or 3 of them out there talking about Jesus. So that is the first day, and it's the lightest day. That's the start. So we call this Jesus on the bullhorn. So if you're driving down the street on the corner and you see these people with signs, Jesus saves, Jesus, telling you about God, seek God, God loves you, that is going to be exactly 5 days before the full moon. 4 days. The next day, this is 3 days before the full moon. You see the moon here? It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger here. Getting bigger here. Bigger to the full moon right there. Okay, so this day we're going to call Gladiators of the Streets. What is Gladiators of the Streets? On day 2 is Gladiators of the Streets. That is the day that you're going to notice all of the homeless people, all the mentally ill people that live on the street, fighting with cars, yelling at imaginary people, fighting with imaginary people, fighting with every car that goes by. They're going to be overexerting themselves. They're going to be jumping and screaming and yelling. If you see that day that you know that all the homeless people are screaming at your car as you go by, that is the second day, day 2, right? The third day, people's emotions are really getting high. You can see on the scales here. Um, these emotional states, whatever emotional state you're in, if you are a giver, you give more. If you are a taker, you take more. If you are an emotionally depressed state, you're going to be more depressed. If you are in an emotionally joyful state, you're going to be more joyful. So it's not that the moon puts us in a mean or angry state. It just intensifies whatever state you are, whatever character you have within you. It's just going to intensify it. If you're a bad person, you're going to be a badder person. If you're a good person, you're going to be a better person. All right. Couples fight night. Couples fight night is on 3 nights before the full moon. It's on the third night. And this is the night that most couples in America will break up. They'll have a fight. They'll separate. They'll go their own ways. This is, like I said, 2 days before the full moon. This is all the major fights and all the major breakups and divorces happen on this night. Right? It's called Couples Fight Night for a reason. Okay, 1 day before the full moon, and we are at peak. Our energy levels, our physical energy levels, and our mental energy levels are at their peak right here in this day. So on this day, sex and candy, blood and guts. What does that mean? Sex and candy, blood and guts. Well, on this day, like I said, those that are good are going to be very kind, and those that are evil are going to be very, very evil. So there might be people that never bought you a drink or bought you a gift might buy you a gift on that night. People that never wanted to fight in their life might want to fight you on that night. So it's both extremes. The night of sex and candy, the night before the full moon, it's blood and guts mixed with beauty. So it's at its extreme right here. People are in emotional states of bliss or anger. So you maybe get people buy you dinner on this day. You may be people trying to fight you on this day. All right, now full moon. Full moon. Full moon. Where's the door? Where's the door? Just like at this point, you've been climbing all week. You've been going through all this stuff each day of this week. And it gets to the point where it's just drawn you out. And you're like, I want to get out of here. I'm so done with this. At this point, I don't know what's going on because you haven't really paid attention that you're about your full moon cycle. So you are about ready to, the day after, have a collapse. Some people don't show up to work on this day. They're so exhausted mentally and physically. You can see they just drop like rocks. So this day they might not show up to work. A lot of people do show up to work. They have nothing left in them. The next day, 2 days after the full moon, the last day is full moon hangover. You are exhausted. You don't want to fight. You don't want to hear anything. You just want quiet and peace and sleep, right? So this is the week of the moon. All right, so we're going to go through it one more time. So on the first day, on the day we call Jesus on the bullhorn, we must recognize that day and that we're about to go into full moon lift, energy lift, and mental lift. So whatever emotional states that we're in are going to be intensified. If we are depressed, we're going to be more depressed. If we are happy, we're going to be happy. So we have to recognition that we are in this state. When we see the guys on the corner screaming about Jesus and the rapture, we know that where we are. We have to recognize, we have to be vigilant. We have to make sure that we get our sleep on those nights. We have to cover our windows in our room to make sure that the moonlight doesn't get in our windows. Because what happens when we turn over at nighttime to change from one body position to another, we will slightly open our eyes. If there is moonlight coming in the room brighter than normal, it will trigger us automatically to believe that our body will release a chemical, believing that it's time for us to wake up. When it does that, it triggers those chemicals. So when we step out of bed, we don't fall down. We can stay straight, and we're cognitive of our position and our balance points. So what happens? It takes a few more minutes for these chemicals to come back out of the body before you can go back into your sleep mode. So during the full moon, we have to be very careful that to get our sleep by not letting moonlight in our room, right? Being vigilant and being aware of what day we are in our moon cycle, right? And we have to understand how does this work? Well, the moon has a biorhythm, right, that affects the human body, right? So if the biorhythm is affected, our behavior. And not a lot of people don't get that it goes deeper than just um, what we would call programming. Through years we hear the word lunacy, meaning lunatic, and we become lunatics. It's not that we become lunatics, but we do experience a change in biorhythm between our subconscious, which is very powerful. People don't know how deep the subconscious is, and that our biorhythms and subconscious biorhythms are tied in with the moon cycle, right? So that is one of the big effects that drives our emotional states to go beyond what they are in a normal week. Gliders are ladies of the street. That's the second night. On that night, you can see our emotional state and our energetic state is rising pretty high on the second night already. We see the crazy people on the corner screaming and yelling at cars and screaming and yelling at imaginary people and fighting imaginary people. They're exerting a lot of energy. They're not on the ground laying there like you usually see them. They're up off the ground yelling and screaming. So on this night, on this day, I call it we don't need no coffee. We don't need any coffee on these next 3 days. We do not need any coffee because our energy is just going through the roof before our collapse over here. So we are in a heightened emotional state already, big time. We have way too much extra energy. We ended up doing more stuff than we should for that day. We ended up staying late at night. Again, we must make sure that we get our proper sleep. Couples fight night. That's a tough one too for all of us. Loss of emotional control. That's people are in a state where they just lose it. Overthinking. All their vices come to light: drinking, smoking, drugs, gambling. All those things will be exaggerated and overly used in this state here. And then the next night is it's a night you should probably stay home. It's very dangerous. It's a very violent night. It's the night that most people get hurt. The night before the full moon. Givers give too much. They overgive. I said free shots and free candy and free dinners. And the takers, they're overtaking. They're overtaking anybody they can through violence. So it gets really ugly on this night. So it's best to stay home on this night. Full moon night, it's hard to stay home though on that night. It's the night usually most people go out, but it's the most violent of the nights during the full moon. Where's the door? High energy still. We're wild, disillusioned. We're in shock. We're angry. And we're going through release and acceptance of all the the past 3 or 4 days that we've been through and the things that we experienced through these 4 previous days, we are and all these emotional states that we go through bring us into that full moon collapse here. So we day after full moon, like I said, these are probably the days like you see the energy drop right off, like back down to the baseline here. And as our energy drop, we're exhausted. Our mind and body, our subconscious that's attached once again to the polarity of the moon is distorted. The alignment with that polarity is distorted. A lot of people, like I say, will call in sick on this day or show up just feeling like crap on that day. And then the last day of it is full moon hangover.